Check this out. These MAGA officials, whether they work in politics or journalism, are finding out the hard way that if you're not 100% loyal to Donald Trump, if you criticize him or his administration even just a little bit, you will be fired, you'll be kicked out of the Republican Party, never to return. And that's exactly what happened to MAGA journalist Gabrielle Kucha, who used to work for OAN, but then she wrote a Substack article just slightly criticizing Pete Hegseth, and now she's been fired and let go from her job. So I want to dive into this story with you, but first and foremost, let's get some context on how we got here. This is her Substack article. It's titled "The Secretary of Defensive," and it's just a very light criticism of Pete Hegseth. And of course, she is still very MAGA. She wrote in the first paragraph, "I feel like I don't need to start this by proclaiming my love for America the Beautiful or by saying that I was and still am unapologetically defiant in my support for Donald Trump." So she is very much still MAGA, and she continued this kind of like MAGA supporting rhetoric in her article, saying, quote, "There's a core element of MAGA that we didn't protect enough. The power of the movement came from a shared realization. We aren't going to blindly accept our government as Bible anymore. America came alive in 2015, yada, yada, yada." The whole 9 yards that you kind of hear from the MAGA side. So she is as Republican, as loving of Donald Trump as you can be. But then in this article, she, as I mentioned, very slightly criticized Pete Hegseth. Another part of the article said, "Fake news, the text thread read around the world. If I hear Signalgate one more time, my head might pop off. I get that we are all tired of hearing about it, but let's be honest for a second here. Our Secretary of Defense told us that it was fake news, that it was another Russia hoax. As a MAGA girl myself, I cannot stand when we take something super serious and legitimate, such as the Russia hoax, and conflate everything and anything that is an inconvenient truth, throw in the towel and say, yeah, it's just that, and then proceed to call people losers and liars for reporting something that was unfortunately true." So she's calling out Pete Hegseth, the Trump administration, and the Department of Defense for Signalgate, where Pete Hegseth and other officials in the Department of Defense were caught sharing classified information in a Signal group chat amongst themselves, but also, of course, there was an Atlantic journalist in that group chat. The article also went on to say, "Locked out, the doors were closed long before, it's just no one told you yet." And this is her main criticism of Pete Hegseth, that he's made himself virtually unavailable to the press. They can't even ask him questions. She said, quote, "So here we are. What makes this even tougher to grasp as a conservative is the new protocol that was just rolled out. Maybe you missed it because it was conveniently dropped late Friday, just ahead of Memorial Day weekend. Cheap PR move." And she includes this memorandum and goes on to describe it. "Effective immediately, journalists are no longer allowed to access the offices of the Secretary of Defense or the Joint Chiefs unless they're escorted by public affairs staff. Outside a few safe zones, like the press office, the food court, or designated entrances, reporters now have to be formally walked door to door by authorized DoD personnel from the specific office or military branch they're trying to reach." Hegseth's reasoning, he claims it's to, quote, "reduce the opportunity for in-person, inadvertent, or unauthorized disclosures." But let's just be honest, since January, the real leaks came from the Pentagon, haven't come from the press. They've come from Hegseth's own team and other senior officials. Let's call this what it is: limiting freedom of movement in the name of national security. So still, this is a valid criticism of Pete Hegseth and the Department of Defense, making them virtually impossible to reach by journalists so they can ask them questions that the American people are interested in. But again, I would still argue that it's a very light criticism of the Trump administration. But that was enough for OAN to say, "You're done. You're fired." And that's how we got here, to her being fired by OAN for telling the truth about Pete Hegseth. It didn't matter that she proclaimed her loyalty to MAGA in that article. Kuchia published the post on Monday, and on Thursday, she was asked to turn her Pentagon badge into her boss, she told CNN. And on Friday, she was fired. Just like that, less than a week, she was gone. The Daily Beast has reached out to Kuchia via her social media. The Pentagon and OAN did not return requests for comment. Previously, a White House correspondent for OAN, Kuchia took on the Pentagon role in February after Trump's administration gave OAN a coveted press corps workspace spot, demoting NBC News. The move was part of a broader push to bring more pro-Trump outlets into the fold. Since her firing, Kuchia has continued to stand by her words. On Saturday, she posted the Substack post to her Instagram. Quote, "I was once told that a former peer feared I was too MAGA for the job. I guess I was, I guess I am." And of course, this is the Instagram post she had where she included her article and that caption at the bottom. So once again, very light criticism of Pete Hegseth, very light criticism of the Trump administration, and yet she's fired. Gone, just like that from OAN. And this is exactly what happens in the MAGA movement if you're not loyal to Donald Trump 100%. And matter of fact, it happened today in an entirely separate part of the political apparatus that we have here in the United States. Jared Isaacman, who is a close ally of Elon Musk, whose SpaceX company has multiple contracts with NASA, was just yanked, or is planning to be yanked, by Donald Trump as the nominee for the NASA administrator spot. Currently, that role has been empty since Donald Trump got into office. Nobody has filled it. There's an acting person in that role, but there's no permanent leadership. And the reason that his nomination was pulled? Well, it was because Donald Trump learned that Mr. Isaacman had donated to prominent Democrats in the past. That is the case. Donald Trump saw that he donated to Democrats, and yet he pulled his nomination. Just like that. People inside NASA had hoped that Mr. Isaacman's arrival as administrator would help provide stability and a clearer direction for the agency, which has been operating under an acting administrator since the beginning of Trump's term. But now there is no administrator, and it's not coming. Mr. Trump told associates he had learned from allies that Mr. Isaacman had donated to Democrats, including Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona and former Senator Bob Casey of Pennsylvania, as well as the California Democratic Party during the past 2 campaign cycles. Trump also told advisors he was surprised he had not been told about those donations previously. 2 people briefed on the matter said. And this is a huge friend of Elon Musk. This is a guy who obviously supports Donald Trump, obviously supports Elon Musk. He's a billionaire entrepreneur. And yet his nomination was yanked. Even Elon Musk was upset about the news. It broke on Twitter, and Elon Musk responded by saying, "It is rare to find someone so competent and good-hearted," in response to the nomination being withdrawn. So this once again just goes to show you that if you are MAGA, you could spend your life supporting Donald Trump, supporting the Republican Party, standing by him, as this MAGA reporter has, all the way through, even still supporting Donald Trump and his administration, and you will be fired if you even criticize them just a little bit. Your loyalty does not matter. What I keep telling MAGA Republicans and just people I interact with every once in a while who are Trump supporters, I say, look, you may be loyal to Donald Trump. You might be. But Donald Trump is not loyal to you, right? You just have people on the Republican side have to understand that Donald Trump is not loyal to them. He will throw them under the bus, stab them in the back if it helps him politically, financially, personally, whatever it is. Trump will always, always, always take the route that helps him, not helps his friends, not helps his family, not helps his supporters. And the sooner that MAGA Republicans learn that, maybe, just maybe, they'll be yanked out of that cult. But I'm not holding my breath. So anyway, I just wanted to bring this story to you of this MAGA reporter getting fired for just being slightly honest about Pete Hegseth, but I'll leave the video there. Thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you being here. Make sure to drop a like on the video, comment down below, let me know what you think. Drop some American flags and some blue hearts as always, and make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. It goes an incredibly long way in supporting. And as I always say, I greatly appreciate you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day.